In this lesson, we're taking a look at 4 classic riffs you can use to practice power chords and really start ingraining them into your guitar playing. This lesson is part of my power chord playlist. In the first couple of lessons we went over how to actually play your power chords. The rest of the videos are all going to be song lessons, putting them into practice, so you can access that playlist via the link in the description. But now onto our first riff of the day, which is going to be Wild Thing by the Troggs. This is a great first ever power chord riff to learn because there's gaps in between each chord, so you can make sure your fingers are all in the right place, and we get some practice moving across strings as well as up and down frets. So we're going to start with 2 strums on an A power chord rooted on the 5th fret of the low E string. Then we've got the first rest as we move up to a D chord. You might want to use the side of the palm of your strumming hand to rest on the strings and make sure that they don't all ring out while you move your fretting hand. So you're moving up to a D chord, which is going to be rooted on the 5th fret of the A string. We're going to do 2 slightly faster strums. So if we put the A chord and D chord part together, we've got... Following this, we're going to stay on the A string but slide up to an E power chord, so 2 frets higher, rooted up on the 7th fret, and we're going to do the 2 slower strums again in the same rhythm as the A chord. Do the muting and then slide back to the D chord and do the 2 faster strums again. So we've got slower strums on the A chord and E chord with faster strums on the D chords in between each one. So we're going A to D, to E, back to D, and it just repeats like that. To give you some musical counting for this, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 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 4. So you can hear that the D chords are making use of the offbeats, so playing on the ands as well, but the A chord and the E chord are just playing on the main beats. So that part is the main riff, which cycles throughout the majority of the song, but there is a slight variation on the intro, so let's go through that as well. That sounds like this. And essentially we're just hanging out on the E chord for a little bit longer, so the A chord and D chord parts are exactly the same. But then on the E, we're going to be doing all down strums, and the count is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So strumming pretty much every 8th note apart from beat 3. So if we start with that intro and put it all together, you'd end up with this. And that is the Wild Thing riff, and now we're moving on to the next riff, which is going to be Jimi Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower. So for this one, we're just focusing on the riff that you hear at the very start of the song. There's a pretty tricky change of feel that goes on as soon as the band kicks in, so we're just isolating those first few chords for now. All the root notes are found on the same string in this one, so you don't have to worry about changing strings. However, you do have to synchronize the changes with the strumming, and we're also moving off the friendly dotty notes, including some accidentals as well, so it's also good practice for notes on the neck. So we're going to start with a B flat power chord, which is rooted on the 6th fret of the low E string, and we're going to do 2 down strums. We're then going to slide up 2 frets to the 8th fret, which is a C power chord, and we're going to do 4 down strums. So if we put those 2 together, and you should notice that there's no gap in the strumming, it's just regular down strums, and this is where the synchronization comes in, because you've got to get the fret in hand to slide up in time with the strumming of the right hand, make sure that the right hand isn't waiting for the left hand. So once again, And you might want to slow it down to be able to do this. You definitely don't want to be going too fast so that you're creating a gap while you're changing. Just to show you what I mean, this would be an example of some good practice. And this would be some pretty bad practice. I'm sure you can see why that is, so try and keep your practice methods to a high standard and that'll help you make more progress. After your 4 strums on the C chord, you do have the luxury again of using the right hand to press down on the strings to mute them, and then you can move your left hand back to that B flat. The second half of the riff is going to be descending rather than ascending, so it's going to be... The rhythm is exactly the same, we're just shifting down a tone rather than up a tone, so it's going to be 2 strums on the B flat, 6th fret, and then synchronize the change down to the 4th fret, which is an A flat, and do your 4 strums again. So it's like a mirrored version of the first half. So if we put it all together, we're going to have the B flat to the C, then the B flat to the A flat, and it just repeats like that. And to give you the musical counting, we're starting on beat 4, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, 4. And that is your second riff. Now it's time to move on to riff 3, which is going to be Rock You Like a Hurricane by Scorpions. Just a quick word on this one before we get started. There is an updated version that's been recorded, I think, for some sort of soundtrack. However, it is in a different key, so if you want to play along with this version, make sure you find the original recording of the song. In terms of the technique, we do have gaps in between the chords again, so it makes the changes a little bit easier. However, we do have bigger jumps between the chords, a higher number of chords, and we're moving between different strings, so some good new challenges to incorporate. So we're going to start with 3 strums on an E power chord rooted on the 7th fret of the A string. Then, as I say, you can use your right hand to put the gaps in as you change, and the next chord is going to be 2 strums on a G power chord all the way down on the 3rd fret on the low E string. Then we're sliding up 2 frets to an A, doing another 2 strums. So far we've got the E, G and A. Now we're moving up a string onto the 3rd fret of the A string. It's going to be a C power chord with just 1 strum. And then to finish off, slide that up 2 frets, and it's 2 strums on a D power chord rooted on the 5th fret of the A string. And then you would slide up again and start once more from the 3 strums on the E. So the whole thing. That was E, G, A, C and D. So now I'll show you with the musical counting. However, I do think this is one of those ones which sometimes the counting makes it seem a little bit more complicated than it really is. It's probably better to do this one by ear, but just to be fully comprehensive, here it is. We've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I think before the verse starts it just hangs on that D chord for a while, so you might want to incorporate that if you're playing along. But that was Rock You Like a Hurricane, and now we're moving on to the last riff of the lesson, which is the very famous Eye of the Tiger. Alright, so this is one that everyone knows. I had to put in that little rhythmical part at the start, just to give it a bit of context. I'm not going to go into that in this lesson, but I probably will come back and do a full song lesson on Eye of the Tiger at some point. Because it's so well known, you probably shouldn't have to think too much about the rhythm. You should be able to just feel it. Instead, the focus is going to be on playing the chords in the right order and nailing the quick changes. So there are quite a lot of short, stabby chords in this one, starting with a C chord rooted on the 3rd fret of the A string, which sounds like this. So as soon as you've strummed the chord, you want to relax the fingers in your fretting hand and use the palm of your strumming hand to rest on the strings, but you want that short, sharp sound. So you're starting off with just that C chord. We've then got a 3-chord grouping, which sounds like this. And the chords we're going to play are C, B flat, C. So 3rd fret root, 1st fret root, 3rd fret root again. So C, B flat, C. So if you put that together, remember you're starting with an isolated C chord. So then the 3 together, C, B flat, C. A really common mistake is that students will strum the first C chord, then try and move down to the B flat straight away. But you've got to remember that the first chord of that 3-chord grouping is also a C. So it's C, C, B flat, C. We then repeat that 3-note grouping, so C, B flat, C. So if we put all that we've done together, we'd have this. And with the chord names, it's C, C, B flat, C, C, B flat, C, and then we're on to the ending, which sounds like this. So a similar sort of rhythm, we're starting on the C again, but this time we're just moving down a string in pitch to the G on the bottom string, a short stabby one there. And then we're sliding up 1 fret to the 4th fret, which is going to be an A flat power chord, but this time we're strumming and sustaining the chord. Just until the cycle starts again from the initial C chord. So that ending, C, G, A flat, let it ring out, and then we're back to the very start. So C, C, B flat, C, C, B flat, C, C, G, A flat. Now I am going to hold off doing a musical count on this one because it involves a lot of 16th notes and it really does make it sound more complicated. I definitely advise just trying to get the rhythm by ear. It's so well known that you can pretty much feel where each stab is meant to go in the rhythm anyway. However, on that note, I do want to mention that the version I've just shown you is the main riff that happens most of the times that you hear it in the song, but in the intro there is one part where some of the stabs are a little bit offset. I never realised this until I learned it on guitar, and it's kind of odd when you realise you've been hearing a song in a certain way for so long and it's actually different to what you thought. Kind of a weird Mandela effect type thing. But I wouldn't worry too much about that if you're just trying to get used to the movements of the power chords. You can just play through like the normal part of the riff. However, if you want a more authentic version, it would actually be a really good exercise to figure out those variations yourself and then try and add them in and play along with the original track. But that is how to get started with Eye of the Tiger, and that is the last of the riffs in this lesson. So there you have 4 riffs to get you started using your power chords. I hope you enjoy jamming along with them. Remember, you can find more power chord content in the playlist in the description. Be sure to subscribe if you want to follow along with the lessons, and I'd really appreciate you giving the video a like if you found it helpful as well. And I'll see you soon for some more song lessons.